My name is Brian Fleming. I served as a team leader in an infantry platoon with the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division while fighting the ground war in Afghanistan. And while I was deployed, I was inside of two vehicles that were blown up and totally destroyed. The first was by a roadside bomb that we ran over. It was a double stack of anti-tank mines that were buried in the road. I sustained a traumatic brain injury during that explosion. And then just a few months later, I was in a second vehicle where a suicide bomber drove his minivan right up next to my door of my vehicle. I could literally reach outside my window and I could have touched his vehicle. And when he got right up next to us, he exploded. I was different when I came home. For years, the VA has just thrown pill after pill after pill at me, and nothing has worked. All the pills they gave me, it was just one thing after another after another. They all say, we can't take away any of your problems, but we can temporarily treat them. And it just seems like there's no hope that any of this would ever go away. I had the opportunity to get hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT, and it was a great experience. I did 2 sessions a day, every day for a month. And I got home, and my wife noticed almost immediately I was completely different. I noticed even just after 3 or 4 days that I was falling asleep around 9 o'clock at night. That was just after 3 or 4 days of HBOT, and I normally don't fall asleep until about 2 or 3 in the morning. I just couldn't sleep. My sleep is better. I felt like I've been living in a fog for the past 14 years since getting out of the military, and it feels like that fog is lifted. I was putting my 12-year-old son to bed last night, and he looked down at me all on his own from his bunk bed, and he said, "Dad, I noticed that you don't get angry as easily anymore." And that meant a lot. That my 12-year-old would notice that difference in me, that my fuse isn't this long anymore, but it actually has grown, and I'm not just going from frustrated to completely angry and blowing up in a split second. And for my son to say that to me just makes all the difference. It shows me that though I'm not a perfect dad, I'm a better dad. HBOT did for me in 30 days what the VA and all of their doctors couldn't do in 14 years with all their pills and everything they could throw at me. It just didn't work. I believe for every veteran out there like me who's been injured and sustained brain injuries and has post-traumatic stress, I believe truly that HBOT is where the light meets the dark. If you have the opportunity to support financially an organization that offers HBOT as a treatment for service members like me, for military veterans, support that organization. If you want your life to have a greater sense of meaning, you're going to find it when you are helping other people live better lives and win their battles. And when you support an organization that gives people this life-transforming treatment, you're making a difference. And when you get to the end of your life, you won't have to ask the question and wonder whether or not your life made a difference, because you'll know it did. In my journey of recovery after my war injury, HBOT has been the place where the light meets the dark and where the healing begins.
Hi, I'm Brett Baker, retired Marine Corps Master Sergeant. I just started hyperbaric oxygen therapy just yesterday. And I've been told, there's several things that it's going to help due to some of my deployments that I've had, some of my injuries that I've had, and I'm hopeful, but I didn't expect instant results. My first treatment was yesterday, and I was just telling Sarah how I slept like a baby last night. I chalked it up to maybe I'm just thinking and hoping that it's going to work, but regardless of why it worked, and I slept absolutely outstanding, which I typically do not do. I don't sleep through the night ever, and last night I did.
It feels like I'm coming out of this fog, just this fog in your brain that's really going away. And there's some other weird things that are kind of unique. My wife used to get really frustrated because she would say something and I would say, "Wah, wah, 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 wah," and it sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher, and it used to happen all the time. But in the last 30 days since I've been having treatments, I haven't had that happen once.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And one of the other things I realized was that, I didn't know this was a thing until recently, but like I would pick up an object and do the wrong thing with it, and I learned that that's different processes in your brain. Like one process is to recognize an object, and the other process is to know what you do with that object. So like I would pick up my toothbrush and be like I was going to brush my hair with it, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I get toothpaste and brush my teeth.
So I was just discussing with a nice group of ladies how I've dealt with headaches since my first TBI in 1998 on a Bosnia deployment. And since I started the hyperbaric chamber oxygen therapy on Monday, I have not had any headaches this week. So that's, they say it's the small things, but when you deal with headaches for 22 years, it's those are some of the big things that you don't think are going to get fixed. But so far, so good. It's a pretty amazing feeling. So we are on the road.